All right, guys. Hi, welcome back. This is video number 2, where we are going to today talk about the creation of our ingredients to be put on top of our pizza. Video number 1 got you to this place where you had your pizza created. And remember, I know it seems like a strange thing, but we were going to make sure that our pizza can fold into fourths really easily, because that's part of how we contain it in our pizza box, because your pizza box is not going to be this big. Your pizza box is going to be a little bit smaller, and then when this is glued in, it'll fold out so we can see all the contents inside. But I am going to say that when we are done with this video and you are gluing all of your ingredients on top of your pizza here, you do not want to fold it up, because then all of it might glue shut. So you want to leave it nice and open and flat. Once you've got all your pieces glued on here, you're going to want to leave the pizza nice, open and flat for like overnight, so that it can dry out completely and not have the pieces of the paper stick together, because paper loves to stick to paper with glue. So we got to be real careful with that. You're going to need, for this project, I asked you to have 2 paper bags, but I actually think for this step, I could make do with all the scraps that I had left over from the last time, because all of this is coming from one paper bag. All the stuff that I have right here, I have a whole other paper bag sitting over there that is for the box. But so for now, I think you could probably make do with a lot of the scraps that you had left over from yesterday's assignment. If you happen to get rid of those scraps and you didn't keep them and you have your second bag, you could use some of that second bag for this, and that's fine, as long as you keep a nice big piece from the second bag left over for making the box, because that's a big part of this project is the box, the front label. So don't forget, in class today I mentioned that you're going to want to think of a nice clever name for your pizza company, your pizza restaurant. So think about what you could call your pizza restaurant, and you're going to create a design and maybe even a slogan for your pizza company. So I'm trying to think, what would my restaurant slogan be? I really like cheese. So my slogan might be Riddell's Pizza, the super cheesiest, or something like that. I don't know. Think about what you would want to have. Maybe what is your pizza restaurant known for? Is it for the spicy sauce, or is it for the freshest vegetable pieces on there, the freshest toppings? What is your pizza restaurant known for? And try and think of a slogan for that, because there is a part of your overall score. If you look at that scoring rubric that I sent out on Monday, you'll see that there is that column that category for aesthetic. And aesthetic is, how does it look? Is it a really attractive product? And that's what I'm wanting to see on your cover, and that's what I'm wanting to see on your pizza today. So the second step that we're doing right now is about designing and creating our toppings. So my toppings on my pizza that I have are pepperoni, olives, sausage, bell pepper, onion, and mushrooms. All right. And so over here, I actually kind of doodled with my markers what I think those toppings should or could look like, right? So I've got this round pepperoni. That's red is what I'm using on my paper here. And you can see that I've already started some of my designs here, but round, but you maybe don't see or didn't notice is I used black around the edge, and I'm doing the same thing on my paper here, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But I think that I like it when the pepperoni is kind of crispy around the edges a little bit, but it also has those little flecks of pepper that are in the pepperoni, and there's also like little white dots that are the kind of that fatty, really flavorful stuff that's in the pepperoni. So there's my pepperoni. Olives are pretty basic, black circles. They look like little tires on mini cars. Sausage is like it's sort of a brown, round ball of lumpy sausage. So it kind of doesn't have a really consistent shape, although it does have a consistent color and a consistent size. Bell peppers, I made those as, and you'll see on here that I'm using 2 different shades of green, but I only have 1 shade of green on my markers here that I was going to use, that are sort of square shaped, and that's fine. Again, consistent shape, consistent design is really important for this project. My onions, I like the white onions on there, and so I just have little white, I'll use white color pencil on here when I'm making that. And then mushrooms are little mushroom shapes that are consistent in their shape, consistent in their size, that I'm using brown. So I just want to reiterate one more time for you that that when you are doing your design, your goal is to have each of the items here be easily identifiable on your pizza. So when you are doing pepperoni, if you're doing pepperoni as one of your choices, for example, you're going to want to have all of your pepperoni be the exact same as much as you can make it. I mean, of course, I'm not going to measure it, but try and be as careful as you can. Exact same shape, exact same size, and using the same design elements. So I'll walk this up there and you can sort of see what I did with my pepperoni, right? So I see how I put like black around the edge and little flecks of the pepper that it's inside and little white bits. I haven't colored these ones yet, but I have the same design that I'm using for all 3 of those. For my bell pepper, and you'll notice the size, it's a little bit smaller than an inch, but they're pretty good size. I mean, here's my thumb, right? You can see that they're like my thumb size in terms of sort of the dimensions of it, because remember, you have to fit 60 of these items on your pizza, right? And so that's a good size, but it's also not huge. So 60 seems like a lot. I'm just sort of making them all together right next to one another so that I can sort of see that they seem like the same size, see that they seem like the same colors, right? So I'm gonna eventually, just gonna sit there and I'm gonna draw out 8 of those. I've got my 8 pepperoni that I have to finish coloring in here with the black and the white, but my 8 are there. I've got my 12 olives. The olives, again, are really friendly. I don't think I have to do too much more of those. I was going to do 9 bell pepper. I got my 9 bell pepper, so I have to finish the rest of these, draw them on here. All right, so I'm going to get to work on that, and I'll meet you back here in, well, I don't know, like as long as it takes for me to pause and then restart the video. All right, see you in a minute. All right, you guys, so I finished coloring in all of my toppings, and I managed to fit them all neatly on this page. That doesn't matter to me if you did get it all on one page or not, but I wanted to give you a little tour of the toppings I have. And one thing I want you to especially notice is that every single one, even my olives, I used more than one color. And even if you're using 2 different shades of green or just a little bit of touch of white or something like that here and there, it does make it more interesting to look at in terms of these toppings. But I also made sure that all of them were really consistent. So I used the same design elements for all of them. If I'm looking at any of these pieces, I'm going to know that which family they belong to. Is it sausage? Is it onion? Is it olive? Is it bell pepper? Is it mushroom? Or is it pepperoni? And I really like, hint, 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 I really like that that there's more than one color present on each of the different ingredients here, each of the different toppings, so that it gives it something that's kind of interesting to look at. So your next step, get your fingers warmed up, because the next step is to be Mr. Scissor Guy or Little Miss Scissor Gal and cut all of these up, all right? So get them all cut out. Don't drop any on the floor, because remember, you need to stick with your total of 60 pieces. So there has to be 8 pepperoni, 12, whatever you have in your number for your ingredients, right? But for mine, I have 8 pepperoni, 12 olives, 9 sausage, 9 bell pepper, 12 onions, and 10 mushrooms. So there's 60 items on here, right? So when I'm all done cutting, I should have 60 things, all right? All right, you guys, there's something that I forgot to mention that's really important. There's actually 2 things that I forgot to mention that I want to make sure that we cover. So on the inside of your pizza box lid is where a lot of our information for the math is for this project. And so when you are making and cutting out all of your your topping ingredients, you're gonna actually wanna have an additional one for each of them, because you're gonna have to make a key. So I know, so I can identify what I'm looking at on your pizza. So when you have your 8 pepperoni pieces, you're actually going to have +1. 12 olives +1. Now, I don't know what your ingredient toppings are, and I don't know how many of each of these you want, but whatever it is, make sure you add +1, +1, +1, +1, so you have a sample of each of your toppings that look just like the rest of them for your key. And so when you are cutting them all out and setting them down, you might want to set the one extra aside so that it doesn't get confused with the rest of the ingredients, because all of them are going to get glued on top of your pizza except for one that's going to go on the key. So, all right, the other thing I wanted to make sure that you realize when you are cutting out your pieces, right? I think you can see that here's one of my sausages, right? That the temptation is going to be when you're cutting to cut right on top of the edge. And I actually am encouraging you to go slowly and to cut around the topping, but not actually on top of where the color is, because sometimes when you do that, you accidentally cut away some of the topping itself. And then that makes your piece really, really small. So I don't know if you can see how around the edge of my sausage that I cut out here, I actually have a little bit of the brown paper from underneath you showing, and that's okay. That's okay. So anyway, that's how I did mine when I was trimming it out. And so I want to make sure that you remembered those two things. Make a +1 of each of the toppings for your key, and don't trim so close to your topping that some of the topping the illustration actually gets lost. So it's okay if you trim around the edge. Take your time on the cutting of the toppings out. There's not a rush, okay? Just a little bit, put on some music, enjoy your music as you're trimming. And you know what? If you accidentally do a cut, you're like, oh no, I cut part of it. You're gonna glue it down anyway, so just keep the pieces that accidentally got cut and reassemble it when you're putting it on the pizza. It's fine. All right, have fun with it, and I'll see you in a bit. All right, you guys, so I'm done cutting out all my pieces. I'm wondering if you are as well. Actually, let me get this out of the way so you can see. So what I've got in front of me here are all of my pieces. Here's all of my ingredients, all cut out, and I've got them organized. The trick is going to be to remember you're supposed to have a total of 60. So as you're putting them on there, you're going to want to try and count them just to make sure that you have or before you put them on them, you're going to want to count them to make sure you've got what you're supposed to have. So I'm supposed to have 8 pepperoni. I'm going to confirm. I got 1, I got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Come on, get off of there. 8, and so on. I'm going to go through. I'm going to count all of these. I'm not going to make you watch me count all of them, but I would double count just to make sure as I'm putting each one on. So I'm going to put my 8 pepperoni on now. And so remember, a huge part of the aesthetic, is it attractive to the viewer, to the audience, which is all of us, right? Because you're going to be sharing some of this with each other, but also with me. So I am the audience, is making sure that it's aesthetically pleasing, which means I'm not going to put all my pepperoni in one big pile here and all my sausage over here and my bell peppers over there. I want to have it sort of evenly distributed out. I'm going to glue on all my pepperonis, but I'm going to sort of put them in a way that has them kind of spread out. And I'm going kind of quick. Ooh, you know what else I'm just noticing as I'm putting them down there is that, remember, this is going to fold. And if you haven't folded it yet, I want you to try and make sure you can notice where those creases are, and try not to put an ingredient right on one of those folds, because then that is going to force that ingredient topping to fold, and then it might pop the glue off of there. So I'm going to be really cognizant of that, aware of that as I'm gluing it down. I almost got it on there on this piece, but I didn't. So as you are gluing them down, pay attention to making sure that that you're not gluing one of these ingredients right on the fold for when you fold it into fourths. I'm not on any of my folds, and the folds when I'm making it into fourths. And I'm just going to keep adding toppings so that they are all over, spread out on the pizza. They don't go on the crust. You don't put the toppings on the crust. But you also do not want your toppings to overlap. I want you to be able to individually count each piece by making sure that they are not sitting on top of one another. I don't want my pepperoni to be covered up by a piece of sausage, for example. So anyway, that's just sort of our next step that you're going to do. You're going to glue all those ingredients down. But please notice I also, you don't see it because it's off camera, but here is my extra set that I made of each of my ingredients for the key. So make sure that you have made all the 60 ingredients over here that are going on your pizza, but have one extra set of each ingredient that you're setting aside for the key. All right. Hey, thanks for hanging in there with me, you guys. This was a little bit of sticky business. Make sure you close the lid on your glue because that's like a pet peeve of most teachers. So I've got my ingredients all glued down. They're still drying, so I'm not going to shake it around too much here. Remember that it's not on a fold, so I can fold this here and have it not push a little piece off. Remember, don't fold it while it's drying. So tonight you're going to let it sit out nice and open. But what I really like about the way the pizza looks here is that all the ingredients are pretty well spread out. If I'm going to get a slice, and we're not actually going to cut up our pizza. Someone was asking me if we're going to have slices cut, and no, we are not. But if I were to make a slice right here, just on this portion of the pizza right here, I would get some olive, I'd get some onion and some pepperoni and some mushroom and some sausage. I wouldn't get any bell pepper though, so I managed to dodge that right there. But most slices would have most ingredients, you could see. And I have actually only 9 bell pepper on here anyway, so it's kind of a rarer item. The ratio to the other ingredients is pretty low for my bell pepper. And so that's the whole point anyway, is to start talking about ratios. So that is going to be our next step when we are coming back here tomorrow for another video. I know tomorrow is Wednesday, and so you'll see this video then. And that'll be a day that we will meet in class because that's an A day. And so we'll go over some of the mathematics of the ratios in class, but hopefully you'll be able to show me in class your nice dried pizza, and hopefully you had fun doing this. I'll tell you, it was a lot of fine motor work getting all those little pieces cut out with the scissors, but I think it'll turn out great. So that's all we're doing today. This is a lot. You guys did a lot. You designed, you colored, you cut out, you glued. We've got our pizzas ready to go. All right. So the next step tomorrow, you'll see in video number 3. Our next step is to talk about the box as well as getting started with doing the mathematics piece for our ratios. So until then, don't eat your pizza, even though it looks really delicious, because it's not for eating. It's just for our math project, okay? So have yourself a great afternoon. Thanks for your hard work today. I appreciate it. See you then.